Hey, this is Mark the Hammer Coleman, two-time UFC Hall of Famer, first ever UFC heavyweight champion. I'm about to do a career interview with the man, Hannibal.
We're with the very first UFC champion and UFC Hall of Famer, Mark the Hammer Coleman, here on the Hannibal TV. This is Hannibal doing the interview here, and to start this off, you want to just tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Hannibal Lecter. Is that your name?
Hannibal, but you can call me whatever you want.
How's your, what kind of numbers you got? You in the millions with viewers?
We are, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe in the billions after this.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, well, we'll do my best. I don't have a good memory, but some things never leave, you know, so I can't remember what the heck I ate this morning, if I did eat, but my childhood, had a great mom and dad, the best mom and dad ever. Man, wow. Just to say right from the beginning of this, they made me, helped make me, you know, I did okay. I wasn't super great or nothing, but I won some state titles in wrestling. Wow, that's cool. And I won a national title in wrestling. That's real cool. That's what I was thinking about as a little 5-year-old kid. I want to be the best wrestler in the world. But I also wanted to be the best football player in the world. I love football. And I also played baseball. I loved baseball. I wanted to be in the major leagues. I was that kind of, I was, as a kid, I was a very shy kid, and I did not like to be picked on or bullied at all by anybody. And you got to deal with size. And when you're a little 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid, well, you know, the guy's a couple grades up. Well, you got to know when it's time to throw. And I held my gloves. But it motivated me just a little bit. Just somebody like picked at my sleeve. Bigger, 2, 3 bigger, older kids. And I said, okay. Well, guess what? I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you back. And that's not the main factor. I had many other reasons but I really wanted to be the best in the world as a little kid, and I trained. You know, I could do 100 push-ups in a row at 5 years of age. The reason I remember this, well, because my uncle gave me $1 for a penny a push-up. So I get 100 in a row, there's my $1. Hey, whatever year it was, well, that $1 was worth a lot. But sometimes it came up missing because we grew up poor.
Right.
And I think maybe my daddy stole that $1 back later on that night, because my uncle would give it to me. And but no, I was on it. I wanted to be the best in the world, and I didn't like being picked on. I didn't want nobody to be able to come up and embarrass me if I happened to get lucky enough to find a beautiful girlfriend.
Right.
I didn't want nobody to be able to embarrass me. So there was no MMA when I was a kid, but there was an MMA in my mind. I wanted to be the toughest man in the world. But at the same time, I wanted to be an Olympic champion. Football, I loved it. Baseball, I loved it. Chose wrestling. Did pretty good in wrestling. Did pretty good. Came close. I won the nationals. I took second in the world. And then honestly, I choked big time at the Olympics. And at the time, that was my life. as a 5-year-old, I set that goal. Oh, I pouted like a little baby. But as we sit here today, are you kidding me? I made the Olympic team. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Would I have liked to have done better? Yes, but I didn't. And today, thank you, Lord, because it was tough. It was tough to make the Olympic team.
Yeah. Who was the Olympic coach that year?
We had a few of them, but I'm pretty sure Bobby Douglas, out of Iowa State. And that's why, I don't get my names and facts right, but I'm pretty sure Bobby Douglas. But I could be wrong.
Right.
It don't matter. I got to hang. I mean, as a kid, I got to hang out with Bobby Douglas. Dan Gable, Russ Helgeson. I got to be around a lot of good coaches.
Yeah.
And wow.
Did you ever spar with Dan Gable in the amateur spar?
Gable. Yeah. Dan Gable. I love you, Dan Gable. I mean, Iowa just dominated for 10 years. And, I really, it seems like somebody should have been able to beat him. But then all of a sudden, I made the Pan American game team in 1990, 2 years before the 92 Olympics. I'm a young kid coming out of college, but I made the Pan American Games. Well, the training camp was headlined by none other than the Dan Gable, who was my idol. I had many idols, many stars, but Dan Gable, hey man, it's close. Best ever. He's one or two. Leave a little room for somebody, but Dan Gable, the best ever. But how does he get his guys so prepared mentally and physically to just push? His guys pushed people into fatigue and they took over. He was able to get that out of them. And all coaches can yell and tell you to do more, but what's important is when he turns around and walks away, do you feel the eyes on his back? And in the Pan American Games, my first practice, we're in Florida, 105 degrees, and we got to run about a mile down to the park. Dan Gable, Dan Gable's leading the charge. And I learned this from Dan Gable. Don't ever let your guy know. Well, sometimes, but don't let the guy, because I motivated people. I learned from Gable, and I took it, and the one thing, he never told us how many. He just said go. Gable said go. And you didn't know how many times you're going to do this loop. You didn't know how many times when you're dead, tired, how many times you're going to have to carry your partner on your shoulders up this hill at the end of practice. Didn't know. And I was too young, and I had too much pride to scream out how many more. But thank God I had my teammate Chris Campbell on the team, 36-year-old guy. He was the oldest guy on the team. Finally, he looked over at Gable and said, how many more? He might have said a little something after that. And then Gable, that was all he was waiting for. Who and when is somebody going to ask me how many more? And wow, I'm glad Chris Campbell did. Because I would have never did it. We might still be carrying people up them hills. But when Gable heard that, he said, one more, practice over. And well, that was in the morning. We got to go to the 5 o'clock practice. So I made it back to my hotel room. I laid in the bed, and I had never been through something that hard in my life. And we got 4 hours until we got to go do the real practice, the wrestling. If you can't wrestle, you can't fight. It's been proven. Everybody can wrestle. That's why there's not so many takedowns, and that's why ground and pound is become very selective, because it's so hard to take somebody down because everybody can wrestle. So now it's a stand-up game, big time. The only reason it's a stand-up game is because people know how to wrestle. If you don't know how to wrestle, it'll become a ground game very quick. But when both guys know how to wrestle, well, stand up. Love you, Conor McGregor, but hypothetically, if it was my time and we were the same weight, I'd take your ass down, Conor, and I'd pound the shit out of you. Love, respect you. You took the sport so high. But if you need some help with your wrestling, give me a call. Oh, Khabib can wrestle. Them Russians can wrestle. Trust me. I wrestled a lot of Russians. Man, they were tough. Tough. This because they were pushed so hard as kids. It was like military. It was USSR. Military. Soldiers. And they weeded out. Some kids went back home to their parents. And the good ones got coaching, teaching, and food. And then we had to go out and wrestle these guys. Wow. They were badasses in wrestling, and they were badasses in fighting. Top of my head, Igor Vovchanchyn and the great Fedor. When Fedor was in his prime and focusing on fighting. Wow. Whew. He got me twice, but I'm saying I watched him get a lot of people. And it was so cool because he said, he said he grew up watching me, I'm old. He grew up watching me, and his style is gonna be my style, ground and pound. Only he took it to a new level, and when Fedor was in his prime, geez, oh man, he smashed people.
Yeah.
He's still fighting, and he's still dangerous, very dangerous, because the punches he throws. You ask me my favorite combination, I don't have no favorite combination, but Fedor does, and that means he throws from every direction. And my second fight with him, he hit me like 6 times in like a 3-second span. He landed every one of them because I didn't see none of them coming. He could throw from all directions. I love him. But, I don't know, they say this is the most dangerous part of your body as a fighter, this chin. It can, some have a super strong chin, and some chins, they say you'll lose your chin. I don't know if that's real or not, but it seems like it.
Now, when did you first hear about MMA?
Well, when I first hear about MMA, I'm sitting, living on college, living at Ohio State campus still with the Ohio State wrestlers. I just lost at the Olympics. That was 1992. And then, it just took everything out of me. I said, oh my goodness, I have 4 more years. I got 4 more years to come back and get my gold. But then all of a sudden, we ordered this pay-per-view. I think we had a little thing in the box that could skip the charges, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was easy to do that. I never did it though.
Yeah. Your friends.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do it. But anyways, holy crap, I watched UFC 1 with a group of wrestlers on a Saturday night. Oh my God. I was just so overwhelmed, so amazed, but at the same time, I thought about when I was a 5-year-old kid. This is what I wanted to do. But why did they wait till 1993 to create this sport? So, in the UFC 1 was some crazy stuff happened that night. You had mismatches, you had everybody from all over the place. Of course, Hoist Gracie won it. Love that guy. Wish I would have got to fight him with headbutts being legal. That would have helped out. But Hoist Gracie wins UFC 1, and I'm sitting in the living room with my boys saying, that's my belt, and that's my money. And my friends agreed, because we rode together as a group, and yeah, that was my belt and my money. But it took me, I didn't know how to get in, you know what I mean? So I didn't know how to get in. So finally, the 96 Olympic trials come around, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't put in the effort deserving of Olympic trials champion. Kurt Angle won the Olympic trials. My rival, we trained together many times. Well, I was the man in 1990, 1991, 1992. Well, Kurt Angle was on my tail. And he took my tail. Actually, Mark Kerr took my tail. After 92, Mark Kerr became the #1 wrestler in the United States. And he held that status for a couple years. I think he placed at the Worlds. But Kurt Angle was right there sniffing his tail. And Mark Coleman was being a bum. You know, I should have been right in there, still beating these guys. But you know what? 26 years, I mean, since I was 5, I wanted to be the best. And then all of a sudden, I'm 26 years old. Okay, I shouldn't have been sad. What the heck? Hell, now, thank you, Lord. I made the Olympic team. I almost didn't even go to the opening ceremonies because I was so focused on winning these things. And the opening ceremonies would have took 6 hours of my time to go do. I just wanted to lay in my bed and get ready for my chance. But they sent enough guys into my room and they told me to get my opening ceremonies gear on. You're gone. The first 10 guys that came in, and I told them to beat it, but then they sent in the big boss, and I was frustrated. But now, holy shit, the opening ceremonies, that was one of the coolest things I've ever been through. I'm so glad I went. But did it? It didn't. It didn't cost me winning the Olympics, that's for sure. I flat out choked. I lost to 2 guys that I had beaten a year earlier. The South Korean and the German. And, well, it still comes down to 7th and 8th place. I still had to wrestle for 7th and 8th place. Not where I wanted to be, but I tell you what, 7th is a hell of a lot better than 8th.
Yeah.
So it's all cool now. But back then I was a young, crazy, feisty kid. But then the UFC pops up and I was mesmerized. That's it. That was me. I knew that was my call. And I think I said my calling before. Well, at the time it was my calling. I need to be in that cage. But how do you get in? At the time, they picked characters and different martial arts. Well, finally, after I lost at the 96 Olympic trials, I was approached by a guy that had worked his way in with the UFC big shots. And he said, I have a spot in UFC 10. He said, I have a spot. He took me into a room and he introduced himself, and he told me he's got a spot. But now he's got to pick between me, Mark Kerr, and Tom Erickson.
Mm-hmm.
I love all those guys, but you know what? I looked at I'll say Rich. We'll call him Richard. I looked at Richard and I said, listen, I will beat the fuck out of Mark Kerr and Tom Erickson, and I will beat the hell out of everybody in UFC 10. Don Fry was the defending champion. I said, I'll beat Don Fry's ass. And I said, let me see that contract. Let me sign that contract. Or don't you need to take it and see your attorneys? I said, no, I'm sure Mark Kerr and Tom Erickson do. But I said, I don't care what this contract says. All I cared about is I need it in now. Because UFC was, I've been following it, and they were about to get booted entirely. I needed it now to make my statement. And I think I made a statement, UFC 10.
Right.
And then I followed it up with UFC 11. And I fought Dan the Beast Severn, UFC 10, for the first ever UFC heavyweight title. We were in New York, Buffalo, New York, all ready to go for the world heavyweight title. And all of a sudden at 8 o'clock Friday night, the UFC called us all into the room and said, go pack your bags. We're flying to Alabama, because the New York committee, they won out. It was over. The show is not going to happen in New York tomorrow night. I just needed to get in that cage. I didn't care if it was in New York or if it was in Ottawa. Is that in Canada? Ottawa?
Yeah, that's actually where I'm from, actually.
Do they still have a hockey team
Yeah,
there?
they do.
Hannibal?
Yeah. Ottawa Senators.
Hannity?
Hannibal, yeah.
You know Hannity from Fox?
Yeah. I know you like him.
He's a good guy, man. He's pretty, his facial expressions, the whole thing, he's good. He's top dog, but you're Hannibal.
Yeah. And I actually interviewed Dan Severn. He said he'd seen you in action in the bars back in your college days before UFC.
What do you mean action in the bars? Dan Severn's seen me in action in the bars? I don't believe it for a second. I believe he's telling a story. Who Dan Severn has turned into a storyteller, because back in the day, Dan Severn, he couldn't spit out 2 sentences, but now, this man's hilarious, and I think he's seen me in action. What does that mean? Fight action?
Yeah.
I never got in a fight in no bar.
Maybe you don't remember.
Well, I mean, of course I got in a fight in a few bars, but don't ever remember Dan Severn being there. But I'd like to know this story, because, hey, I'm not going to deny, who doesn't have loss of memory as they get older, no matter what the situation is. But no, there's a lot of stories that I need my buddies to fill me in on. But I didn't fight that much in the bars, and I never got in a fight in a bar. I never got in a fight in a bar since I stepped in that cage. Right. Prior to stepping in the cage, yes, I had my altercations here and there. People say in the hundreds, but the truth is maybe a handful, 10. Because 90 of them I won by letting the guy know I'm going to kill him. And that's the best way to win, without any altercation, him having to walk away. But I did get into, but they didn't last long. You know what I mean? They did not last long. All of a sudden I went from a bar fight, and they say, Dan Severn says, Jeff Blatnick, God bless him, rest in peace, my good friend. He said that he's been known to be pretty good on the streets. Well, it's good hype. I was pretty good on the streets, but you know what? When you walk into the cage, it ain't the streets. I found that out my first fight versus Modi Horenstein, world champion karate guy, Jean-Claude Van Damme lookalike. And I hope like hell I get this guy on the ground, because that's what it's all about. Wrestlers, we always thought we were the toughest guys in the world, but we had no way to prove it. And now all of a sudden, people actually said, martial art, what is wrestling? It's not a martial art. A lot of people said that. Are you kidding me? I think it's the oldest martial art out there. And I told people, either learn how to wrestle or get used to what you just saw. You know, and back then I hadn't done any interviews, so certainly I was very shy. I'm Mark Coleman. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, Fremont, Ohio originally, because my hometown was upset that they put me up at from Columbus, Ohio, training out of Columbus, Ohio. They should have put. I'm originally from Fremont, Ohio, home of Charles Woodson, which I don't know, you Canadians don't know football, but Charles Woodson the best. But so anyways, they said pack your bags up. We're flying to Dothan, Alabama, and we you know, God bless Bob Meyerowitz. I mean, he rented out, I think, 2 super jets to fly 500 people from New York to Alabama, and we made it there at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then get up, and there's no weigh-ins, you know, fight the next night. And I don't know, there was maybe 5,000 people there, but that was 5,000 more than I needed to fight Dan Severn to be declared the world champion. That is what I wanted as a kid, to be the best in the world at something. And I hadn't achieved it yet. Wrestling, I came close, took second. And now, in fighting, I am the UFC champion, which is that considered the world championship?
Yeah.
World champion. I was stoked. I was stoked when I beat Don Fry, toughest guy I ever fought in my life. I would have had to kill him before he quit. And I couldn't believe what I was into. This was the 3rd fight of the night. I hadn't been hit one time that I know of. I know my hands were killing me. And I got Don Fry down there at a 10-minute mark. And Big John asked him, how you doing, Don? He says, I'm fine. Even though his eyes were closed shut, he opened up a little bit and said, I'm fine. I said, what have I got myself into here? So I had to continue. They didn't stop fights back then. Don Fry was never going to tap.
Yeah.
And they did not stop fights, and he was still defending himself.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted. But I got to finish this somehow. And finally, his hands lowered enough that Big John pulled me off. And I still didn't know if I won, because I said, is it over? And Big John looked at me and told me to go to my corner. I'm like, what the heck? And then finally I seen Big John doing the wave off sign. And I always give praise to the Lord. Thank you, buddy, because that was... But I was exhausted, and it was so hot in there. And I had a lot of my fans come swarm around me in the cage. They swarmed the cage, and the heat went from 110 or 100. It went from 100 up to 115, and literally I was going to pass out. And I looked at my coach and said, please, you know, and whew. But then when I did finally get my breath under control, wow, you know, I'm the fucking champ. How much cooler can it get than this? Well, it can get a lot cooler, but at that moment, what the heck? I've been dreaming of this since I was a 5-year-old kid.
So basically, you're the champion. You're telling me you're on top of the world. And you're telling me off camera that actually led to that unfortunate 3-fight losing streak. Do you want to just kind of graze over that period of time there?
Well, so I beat Dan Severn, and coming from a wrestling background, you know, we get our gold medal, but a lot of people call it a yellow medal because it ain't gold, it's just yellow, but that's okay. In wrestling, you win, that's it. You go home with that pride of you won, and it's pretty damn cool. But all of a sudden, I won 3 straight UFCs. I just beat Dan Severn in less than 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden, the internet was not that big back then, but I had to have somebody help me get on the computer. I just started reading about myself. Oh, stupid, because people were saying this guy's an animal. He can't be stopped. He will kill everybody, blah, blah, blah. Even though there were people out there saying, nah. Well, I read it, and well, for the first time, I got a title defense against Maurice Smith lined up. And I'm celebrating my victory over Dan Severn. Celebrating. And it kept getting closer and closer to the fight. Well, Frank Shamrock warned me. He said, Coleman, you better train, you know, because I was looking at Maurice Smith as a walk-through fight.
Right. And Frank was his coach.
And Frank was his coach, but Frank was my friend, and he told me a couple months prior to the fight, he seen that I was getting too cocky, I think, and he said, as your friend, he goes, I recommend you train. And well, I should have. And I got so tired that fight. I got so damn tired, and that's the worst place you'll ever want to be, is in that octagon when your gas tank is got the red light on. But no, I survived. I damn near knocked Maurice Smith out in the first 3 minutes. I beat the crap out of him. But if I would have trained, I just would have continued that barrage, and eventually it would have been over. No, at the 3-minute mark, my hands were starting to seize up. And I looked Maurice Smith in the eye, and he didn't say nothing, but I read his mind. Here we go, Coleman. You blew your gas tank, and now you got 20 more minutes to go. Ooh, geez, it was a humbling night. One of the most humbling nights of my life. Because I thought I was going to die of a heart attack. I was so tired. But at the same time, old Maurice Smith kicked me in the legs about 50 times. And when I didn't want to show no pain in the cage, but when I got backstage, when I got back to my locker room, and I walked right past the doctor's room, because I was a dumbass bullhead. When I got back into my locker room, when I shut the door in my locker room, I screamed out in pain because my legs felt like they had been chopped in half by an axe. You know what I mean? The pain was so severe. My legs were blacker than Maurice Smith. And humbling. But signed a rematch. But it took me about 2 weeks just to get rid of all the damage. But 2 weeks later, I got a rematch with him in 3 months, you know. Okay, I'm gonna put it in 3 months, and I'm gonna beat Maurice Smith's ass. But first practice back, first major injury I ever had with my training partner. We're just wrestling, but he got my leg got stuck up against the wall, and he drove his shoulder through my thigh and blew my ACL out. Oh no, I didn't know for sure. I had hoped it wasn't that. Stood up, tried to walk it off, but when the leg started jiggling, I knew it was serious, and I had my first surgery of my life. 25 years of wrestling, and now fighting. It was big time because they weren't so great back then. They can get you back, ask Jerry Rice, they can get you back pretty quick with the proper team around you. Yeah. But
it's not like the UFC would help you in those days like they would now. Get the best doctor.
Well, it just it was ACL at the time was a major setback, but luckily it wasn't career ending, and finally it did heal up, and I finally was back on my feet. And I'm pissed, I'm mad, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, humiliated by Maurice Smith. So now they're going to bring me back, and then I had the rematch lined up and tore the ACL, so that fight's off. Rehab the ACL. Okay, they're going to bring the Hammer back. Randy Couture was supposed to be my fight back. Ooh, in hindsight, that would have been super tough. But he separated his ribs, and then the final 2 weeks, they went through 6 names with me. They called me 6 times, changed names. I don't know, people maybe changed their mind and thought I was coming back with a vengeance, which I was, but I'm coming back 6 months after ACL. Back in the day, probably rushed it a little bit because my leg was still skinnier than the other one. They ended up, Pete Williams ended up being the opponent they determined for me. Pete Williams, I don't have no clue who this guy is, right? Well, wasn't a good day. I came back too quick. Not to make excuses, but I did have a serious thyroid issue problem at the time that I didn't know nothing about, but it just caused fatigue, and I had some good practices. I had some bad practices. But when I went in there with him, it was the first fight without headbutts. And I took this guy down, and I'm staring nose to nose with Pete Williams on the ground. I'm not feeling so strong. I wasn't feeling so good. Before the fight, I kicked everybody out of my locker because I just, I don't know, fear, whatever. But a lot of people look for the side door right before the fight starts. And a lot of people have hit the side door. On smaller shows, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
If it happens in UFC, well...
Happens in amateur all the time, too.
That's what I'm talking. It happens in amateur all the time. But this is one where, damn, I wish I could just hit that side door and go down the street and just hang out. Don't really want to fight. But then all of a sudden got in there, did my best, took him down. After 15... I'm winning the fight. I beat Pete Williams. No headbutts. I was looking him in the face, just dreaming that I could just headbutt him. I couldn't. So it was a jiu-jitsu stuff down there. He damn near armbarred me in the first minute, man. He had my arm locked straight. And honestly, I was a white belt, whatever. But my instincts, it was the last resort because he had that bitch locked out and it was going to be over. But there's one last bailout, which I guessed right. Do you go this way or do you go this way? I learned on the job in the UFC because I didn't have coaches. You know what I mean? I had some guys hold the pads for me that were great. Buster Douglas's guy, Buster Douglas. Do you know him?
Of course I know him, yeah.
I would think so. He's from Columbus here, and I think it was 42-1 odds.
When he beat, I think it was the greatest upset
62-1 or 42, one of the two. Yeah. But Buster Douglas, but I had some guys holding the pads for me, this and that. But basically, I trained wrestling, and I would have a heavy bag that I would sit there and smash. Elbows, smash, smash, smash. And that obviously is old school training. And, you know, I had to, that's right when my kids were born. So, yeah, I would have loved to have jumped in a plane and flew out to Vegas or wherever. And I had plenty of offers. Pat Militech, come on up here, let me help you. You know, hard to get away with a couple little kids there. I didn't like leaving them. So I coached myself, did okay, but after the 3-fight losing streak, I was desperate. Not desperate. Luckily, I knew the Japanese let me know I'm going to be in that Grand Prix, and I had 6 months. My body was healthy, my thyroid issues were gone, and I put in 6 months, like a season of NC2A wrestling. It's a grind. It's a grind, and I grinded for 6 months, and I showed up at the Pride Grand Prix. Nobody wanted me to win that. I'm talking about the promoters and the business people, because Mark Kerr was their guy.
Pride was bigger than UFC at that time.
Pride was so huge. Pride was so huge. This was the biggest tournament ever, and I'm in it. And the only reason I'm in it is because I'm a 3-time UFC champion, and the promoters.
You had name value.
Well, name value to make this thing a 16-man tournament, but their favorite was Mark Kerr, Igor Vovchanchin, maybe Sakuraba. What a bad man that guy was, right?
Yeah.
I fought after Sakuraba Gracie went 6 15-minute rounds, I think. Yeah. I warmed up 6 times. I was getting very, very agitated because I got my job to do too. This is crazy. But it wasn't crazy. You got to do what you got to do to draw viewers, and that's what Pride did. Yeah. So Royce Gracie versus Sakuraba, special rules, no time limit. Well, I was the next fight after him, and that really sucked because, you know, I warmed up 6 times. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then I did finally. I pulled it off, and I pulled it off. You know. Soji Fujita got hurt by Mark Kerr in the first round. Kerr was supposed to destroy Fujita. Me and Mark Kerr were supposed to meet in the semifinals of the Pride Grand Prix. That is one of the fights that everybody wishes they could have saw. And they talked about our friendship, which Mark Kerr is a friend, but at the same time, you could be a friend, but if I had to fight you, no, I had to kill you, Mark Kerr. So, no, we can. I cornered Mark Kerr, plenty of times, but we may have to fight each other in the Grand Prix. Yeah. Or we just didn't talk. But then when we showed up there, I assumed I'm fighting Mark Kerr in the semifinals, and I planned on whooping his ass. I beat him 3 times in wrestling, and in practice I beat him. What the Specimen. He had so many nicknames. Mark the Specimen Kerr, Mark the Smashing Machine, everything. He was a Greek god. That's why...
There's a documentary about him, right? You're in it.
That's why the Japanese loved him. Yeah. The documentary, yes. Well, obviously I became a big part of that thing, and it wasn't planned on going that way. When the people produced that movie, they planned on filming Mark Kerr training, this and that, and then winning the Pride Grand Prix. Well, no, unfortunately, Mark Kerr opened himself up to the cameras, and he made this documentary must see. I recommend it to anybody, not because I'm in it. it'll move you. It's emotional. It was the best MMA documentary out there. They were going to make a real movie for the cinemas, a real life version of the Smashing Machine, and Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposedly going to play my part. I said, pretty cool, but damn, he's only 170 pounds, right?
Yeah.
But it never made it because Rico Rodriguez actually had a lawsuit with the Smashing Machine, people that made it, and turned into a court war that Rico Rodriguez won because they made him look, I think Boss Rude knocked him out and they put it on there. So simple as that. But that ruined, Rico. I love Rico Rodriguez, but damn, dude, man, if it weren't for you, there would have been I'd have been going over to South Africa where they're making a movie. I'd have been going over there as a, spokesman. Show people how the hammer moves. Show Jean-Claude, you don't be your Jean-Claude, but don't be your Jean-Claude if you're playing.
And then that would have immortalized you even more if they had done that. But
yeah,
it's not over. Someone's probably still going to make a movie about your career down the road. And everybody wants to see, well, you won. You want to finish off your story about winning the Grand Prix?
Okay, so what was so cool about the Grand Prix is I rose to the top of the UFC so fast, and I was overwhelmed. It overwhelmed me to the point where I thought I could win without training. How crazy is that? How stupid is that? But Marie Smith, thank you for the humbling. Unfortunately, we never got to do round 2, but
no one remembers him.
Huh?
In the end, at least nobody remembers him, and you have a bigger name.
Well, that's why it was so important for me to fight Dan Severn. I knew it was for the first ever heavyweight championship, and I knew the importance of that. Number 1, he's going to be remembered. Yeah. Number 2, number 3, number 4. A lot of people can't name them off, So it was important. But then the losing streak, and then pride puts me in there as a, little chip. But they expected me to do nothing. But little did they know, I put in one hell of a 6-month grind. Before that Pride Grand Prix, I put in 6 months of every day grinding like I was going for the national championship at Ohio State. That's one of the hardest things to do. Win a national title, winning the Olympics. They're both similar, but that's what I did. And by the time I got to the Grand Prix, I had been counted out for the dead by everybody. Well, you like to prove people wrong, and that's what I wanted to do. You guys don't know, they don't care about an ACL injury. They don't care if you didn't train, which is fine. They shouldn't. That's your own fault. It's my own fault I didn't train for Marie Smith. Now the ACL injury, well, damn. Part of the business. I knew when I was a 5-year-old, I looked up at my heroes and they all had a little crooked walk to them. And I said, I'm going to have a crooked walk to me, because if you ain't walking crooked, you probably got your ass beat. You probably sucked, because wrestling, to be a champion, state, national, Olympic, world, you got to fight some serious positions that can do damage to your body. And, it's where I'm at right now. But I plan on being here. I'm not complaining.
And what happened with that Takada match? I never actually saw it, but everyone wants to know. It seemed a little weird.
What was weird about it?
I guess the finish.
It was a pretty weird finish, wasn't it? Damn. That's why I needed to work on my jiu-jitsu. Because that finish should have never happened.
And I guess he also ended up being the booker of Hustle, who you wrestled for.
Also.
Yeah. How did you find pro wrestling?
Well, you know, I won the Pride Grand Prix. Which they did not want me to be their champion. They did not think I had anything to carry this organization. They did not want me to win. I win it, and well, I go into negotiations, and these guys, they offer me the same pay as I was getting before I won the Pride Grand Prix. Well, I'm the champ. I want paid. Come on down. Come on down, chica. Double chica. Huh? Come over here. What do you think? Could she be the next? We're talking maybe give me 10 years. I need about 10 years. She's 4. I need about 13 years. When she's 18, that is the next. I don't know what weight, straw weight. It don't freaking matter. She's just killer.
Are you training any fighter? Are you training any fighters?
Is she cool or what?
She is cool.
Yeah,
she's an athlete.
Man. She's just she is so amazing. She can, unfortunately, okay, I have my oldest daughter that did gymnastics. Well, I mean, it consumes your life. At 7 years of age, it reminds me of a 5-year-old. At 7 years of age, they are at the gym room for 5 hours a day. 4 days a week.
And it's good for fighting. Didn't George St. Pierre do gymnastics?
Oh, no. Mark Schultz. Yeah. You don't know Mark Schultz, but he's the Fox catcher guy.
Yeah.
The Fox catcher guy. No, he was a great gymnast. Okay, but you got to get into gymnastics, but it's hard to quit because if you're good, you know how they keep you in?
No.
They give awards to in 17th place, and this little chick gets her ribbon. No, man. They're just taking your money. It's good for you, but I don't know. These girls up here, it's very quick. They find out who's going to be a champion or not. My daughter, level 10, national bar champion. Wow. That was cool. When the Lord don't give wrestlers boys.
Is there anything else you want to show over before we get back into the interview?
Get this stuff, because this stuff is real. Get over, Sky. I got to ask you a question. Come here. Push the button. Come here. Come here. These guys want to hear something. Come here.
Who came up with your nickname, The Hammer, by the way?
We can talk about that. Okay, but if you want to go into how I got into the sport, well, actually, 1996, I've already talked about it. Well, at the Olympic trials, a dude shows up there, a dude who is, he's I don't know, he's a con artist, but he watched the UFC, and I didn't know this. We filming?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're filming.
What did you just say?
You told me to film.
Uh-oh.
What? I didn't say nothing.
Yes, you did.
What?
Yes, you did.
What? I say a bad word? What do I need?
Soup.
What do I need in my mouth?
Soup.
Why? What's that do?
Alright, I guess we should get back. Do you want to get back into it now?
I mean,
Or is there anything?
this stuff's to me, legendary. I mean, you ain't.
She's 4 years old now, and she's already pretty big, pretty athletic for sure.
Well, she's definitely athletic. I'm going to give myself a little bit of credit for that. She got my genes, my girl's genes. She pretty athletic herself. Competitive. She's a competitor. She wants to be the star. She wants to be the star, and that's you have to win the fight. But if you want paid, you gotta be Conor McGregor. Nice job, Conor McGregor. Best ever. Chael Sonnen, Phil the New York Badass Brony, my teammate. That man can do an interview. You know, me personally, I wasn't that great on interviews. It depends on when you stuck the mic in front of my face. If you stick a mic in front of my face after a fight, well, that's when I'm not going to be afraid to say something or do something. Hashtag Pride Grand Prix Finals victory celebration. You know, I thought I was my teammate Kevin Randleman, who could have jumped out of that ring and landed on the ground. Well, I am not Kevin Randleman, so I got up and realized I'm going to come up about 5 feet short, and you know, landed on my head, but really I landed on my back, and then. You know, at the time, it's like, it's crazy what goes through your mind. I'm like, oh man, that was stupid. But no, I got out of the ring, and I went to the fans. And if you watch that, I got to a big group of fans, and I gave them a big hug, like all of them. And I did plow this lady right in the face when I hugged her. But I think she dug it. I think she dug it. And then, yeah, they got me back in the ring, and hey, what the heck, man? I mean, what the heck? How much bigger does it get than, you know, everything? State, national, Olympics, but then all of a sudden the UFC champion, and then you fall from grace. You get humbled, but then you get the opportunity from somebody that wants to just put you in there as a piece of their puzzle. Well, it's like chess. Guess what? I'm not very good at chess, but fighting is chess. And
what's the biggest mental obstacle to deal with in MMA? Speaking of that,
Skyler, what did he say? What did he just ask me?
you know what a mental game it is?
Skyler, what's he saying? What? Look at that. That is my smirk I taught her. Because, you know, I don't, you know, right there. Here, watch this. Watch it. Come here. Let's give him a smirk. Sit on my lap. We're gonna put our thumb up. We're gonna put our fist up and give him a smirk. Show me a smirk. Look at that.
The next Ronda Rousey with a longer career at the top.
Gotcha. What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? Oh. Did you do that? Oh! Nice move. That's a good counter. Who taught you that? Who taught you that? Is that natural?
No.
Did she watch the UFC last night with you?
Here you go.
He wants to know if you watched the UFC last night. Did you watch the UFC? That? Who won?
You.
Did she watch it? Come on, man. She's 4. No,
I don't know if
she
she
was
watches
playing
it.
with her toys, and it was last night was pretty cool. One of the best cards ever.
Yeah. The one guy won with the same finish you used, Ben Askren.
No, not the same finish. That's we talk about that if you want to. But last night, one of the best cards ever. But we had people over, last night. So we had people over. So you got to be a host.
Over too.
Yeah.
And when you got to be a host, you can't sit there and I just want to watch it. Just watch.
Yeah.
But I had to. So I got to go back and watch it again. But I got old Ben Askren's fight. Wow. Because
Oh boy.
what was that?
That's you don't have your mouth guard in for that.
Oh, did you get that? Oh, Skylar Constance. Hey, Skylar Constance, that's illegal. That is illegal. Headbutts are illegal. What?
Who do you like better, the Bengals or the Browns?
Did
Out
you
of
see that
curiosity.
fucking headbutt?
I saw it. That looked brutal.
Yes, but the problem is, give me something. Okay, say, look at the camera now. I'm gonna be the next champ. Come on. Yeah.
Are you a Browns or a Bengals fan? Or do you dare answer that on camera?
Oh, what the heck, man? And whatever fan you are of, why would you dare be afraid to answer that question? I'm a Browns fan. Man, I grew up, made or broke my day, the Cleveland Browns, growing up as a kid. I wanted to play for the Cleveland Browns. But then all of a sudden, I love the whole division. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. That's where I come from. That's playing football in the snow. And stop that. What?
What was your favorite pro wrestling match, by the way? Speaking of, you were telling me earlier.
No, you're done. I gotta finish.
Yeah.
Nice right hand. I tapped. Look, I tapped. I tapped.
Oh,
I tapped.
Ow! Let's go.
It's a good straight right.
you might not
know
be
what?
able to finish this interview if she beats you up too badly.
Let's go. Go sit down and watch. What?
Were you friends with Phil Baroni's dad?
Oh man, that's a big question right there. That's a big question.
Should I ask that one when we're back to it?
Nah, you know what? If I just speak the truth, what's the difference with any question you ask me right now? Was I friends with Phil Baroni's dad? Yeah. Yes, I was, because he was at. I cornered Phil Baroni 15 times. I love Phil Baroni. Crazy Hammer House, loyal to the Hammer House, and I don't agree with everything Phil Baroni does. Come on, but I support my guys. And the Hammer House, we were tight. We were a team. I didn't necessarily yell out instructions on how to win this fight. When the fight starts, the game plan most of the time, back in my day, the game plan was out the door, and now it's survival. And my guys liked having me in the corner because you know what? They knew I had their back. I had their back because it ain't just about the fight. A lot of times, stuff happens after a fight, right?
Yeah.
So they liked having me in their corner because it made them confident. Because we went into Brazil a few times.
Did you hear that Baroni wasn't paid for his fight with Chris Lieben? And
Yeah, well, you know, okay. Yeah, I was there.
You were there for that?
I was there for the Lieben fight, yeah. I was there for Brony's BKB Lieben fight, and, okay, you know, a lot of things didn't sound right because people were getting, including Phil Baroni, getting paid a nice amount of money, although, you know, I showed up and whoever the promoter from Poland was, well, yeah, he said hello to me, and he told the hotel people put everything on my room. Well, you tell me to put it on your room, I'm going to try to take advantage of it a little bit. You know, I mean, it wasn't. I don't want to take too much advantage, but at the same time, I come all the way out here for this BKB, and I'm going to do my best job to help promote this new company and help them succeed. And yeah, well, you know, what a horrible fight for Phil Baroni that night. I mean, all I can say is it happened. You know, that happened. He needs to put that in the past because Phil Baroni is still, you know, he gets attention from everybody because the way he's carried himself, promoted himself, and he is Hammer House. So he's still needed, he's still wanted, but if he needs to get his shit together, because I always say the clock's ticking fast. You're going to be 21, next thing you know you're going to be fucking 41. So get it done now, guys. Get the job done now.
What's the story about Baroni's mouth guard at King of the Cage?
Huh? What? That story's out there? Listen, King of the Cage. Phil Baroni calls me up, you know, a night before it's going to happen, and he asks me if I'm going to make it. Well, is the King of the Cage going to fly me in? Because I'm not just going to book a... I mean, I got loyalty to people, but no, my wife and kids and everything around here, I can't just jump on a plane and fly to California and corner you for 3 days, you know, but it worked out. Somehow it worked out, and my guy needed me, and I always would be there for him, but I'm not paying for it. I'm not paying for it, and to be honest with you, I want paid. I don't want to be in your corner because some people say I'm the worst cornerman in the business. Well, for some reason, you know, my guys keep calling me back. They want me in that corner. And okay, so Phil Baroni, I show up the day of the fight, and he's a mess. Not a mess, he's just fight day, man. It's fight day. Some people handle it in different ways. Well, Phil Baroni handles it in his way, and well, we got to fix this mouthpiece. You know, we had to redo it 20 times. We kept ordering room service up, 2 bottles of hot water. Got the mouthpiece. He forgot his mouthpiece, so it was a backup mouthpiece. You know, sometimes fighters, they look for things to distract them from what's really going to happen, but then finally we get the mouthpiece together and it's time to go out, and Brony's fighting in Stockton, California, and the guy he's fighting, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but fan favorite. We're in enemy territory. Hammer House, me and my guys, Hammer House, we didn't turn down fights. We never turned down fights, and we always went into enemy territory. And but before that fight, damn, Phil Baroni hands me his mouthpiece right before the fight's gonna start. They're gonna introduce him. He hands it to me. I put it in my front little pocket here, actually not a pocket, just my front little whatever. And next thing you know, somehow that thing got bumped on a cage or something and fell out. And Brian looks for me, asking for his mouthpiece. And, oh, jeez, wow. Yeah, he didn't have some kind words for me. He did not have very many kind words for me. Basically, he said, I can't believe I gave you that mouthpiece. And at this time, it's crunch time. I looked at the promoter and said, look, we don't have a mouthpiece. You got a backup? They brought a backup in. I handed it to Phil Baroni. And mouthpiece is very important to Phil Baroni. Very important to everybody. But he turned around and actually he says that maybe probably helped him win that fight, because he didn't want the mouthpiece and he went straight across the ring and he plowed this dude with the right hand, and then he ground and pounded him until the fight stopped. And then afterwards it was pretty interesting as well. A lot of stuff thrown, not my direction, because I get along with anybody, but now Phil Baroni, New York badass, you're gonna have some haters, but they just don't know they love you. Haters don't know they love you. Ben Askren, shout out to him. Wow, that was nuts and guts wrestling right there, man. He was pummeled. Am I right on that? Ben Askren, you took a beating. And most people would have been finished by far. But Ben Askren is a true wrestler. The Funk Master. You better work on your stand-up. But I tell you what, like you said, when you got on top of him, nice choke. They say it was a Dan Severn choke, and you know good as well as I do, completely different. Your choke was completely different than my Dan Severn choke. That was a neck crank. What Ben Askren had on last night, Robbie Lawler, I don't know what you call that, but it was tight. And controversial, love Robbie Lawler. I've known him since he was 18, but really, maybe quick stop, maybe not a quick stop, who knows. Ben Askren was never letting go of that choke. That boy's a monster when he gets on your back. Nice job, Ben Askren. We wrestled a lot alike. Somewhat alike.
You're about to get into your wrestling career. You started in Hustle, I guess. Your pro wrestling, sorry, not amateur, not to be confused.
My pro wrestling career started, I won the Grand Prix. Well, actually, I was trying to get into the WWF, or the WWE, whichever it was called back then. They brought Shamrock in. He did a great job. They brought, the other company brought Tank Abbott in. Tank, your gimmick didn't work, but he got paid well. Got paid very well, but he never even had to go to work, because... And then Dan Severn, love you to death, but I was next in line. I was after them four guys. I became the big UFC champion, and I wanted to pro wrestle. But the WWE had kind of had their questions about these UFC fighters, and they heard stories that I might be difficult to deal with. So I didn't get my chance in the WWE, which I think I would have succeeded. But over in Pride, they started Pride. Japan, their pro wrestling is more old school, traditional. You know, not all the showmen, the interviews, and all this and that. It was like more, let's make it real. Okay, so. Well, I win the Pride Grand Prix, and Pride offers me no bonus, no raise, no nothing. And my negotiating guy just decided we're going to wait till they come up. I want more money. I just won the Pride Grand Prix. I think I want more money. But then my break came when Pride teamed up with, I think, the NWA, big organization in Japan. And they asked me if I could pro wrestle. And I said, well, yeah, I think so. And I'm going to be the main event in NWA versus Yuji Nagata, superstar over there in Japan. And they flew me in 10 days before the show. I thought I was going to have a 10-day cramming learning session. No, these guys, Yuji Nagata didn't show up into Tokyo until the night before the wrestling match. And we met. We discussed it a little bit, and then basically in front of 30,000 people, my first pro wrestling match, I think it lasted over 20 minutes with Yuji Nagata, and wow, that was cool. That was cool, and I was concerned about if I'm going to be able to. You can always keep learning. Luckily, I had an American, Steve Carino, over there, and he warned me. He said, look, when you guys are locked up, they might whisper in your ear, but don't listen. Stay strong. And I was there as Mark Coleman, the Pride Grand Prix champion and the Olympic wrestler. Well, I don't give much. In pro wrestling, you have to give and take, but I'm not going to give much. And it was so cool. And then they took us out to eat afterwards, and I ate a lot of sushi. They even brought out some whale meat. Sorry, but I had to eat it. Wow, whale meat's good.
And what brought you back into MMA? You were doing pretty well in wrestling. I guess in Japan it's owned by the same owners as Pride.
What brought me back to MMA, I never left MMA. I was still fighting in Pride, but at the same time I was doing our Hustle, which was doing great ratings over there. And I tag teamed up with my Japanese teammate, and we were heading towards the title because we were rolling. But all of a sudden I had to fight. They offered me a fight against Shogun Rua. And I'm getting up there in age. Shogun Rua's there up become a star. And well, they messed up because they gave me 3 months notice. They said, we want you to fight Shogun Rua in like 3 months. And I said, okay. Usually they squeeze in a 1 month notice. Well, I had 3 months notice. They thought it was an easy give me to their superstar. No, I got in shape. I got ready. And I told you, when I was ready, when I trained, when I prepared for a fight, no guarantees. I was dangerous. In Shogun Rua, I knew I was going to win that fight. I didn't know for sure, but my confidence was really at an all-time high for some reason because I prepared, I was healthy, and I felt I was better than this 205-pounder. I'm a heavyweight, he's a 205-pounder. I'm going to beat this guy because I'm stronger. And Shogun Rua, they asked me what his weakness was. I said, Shogun Rua, his weakness is his strength, and he can't wrestle that well. So that's how I'm going to beat him. I'm going to wrestle him and pound him because I'm stronger. And, well, we didn't get to find out. Because honestly, people say lucky. It was a lucky move when he broke his arm. Well, guess what? If you reviewed the tape, if you knew how to wrestle, you wouldn't take that risk. and post your arm like he did. It's a risk because it could go the wrong way, which it did. He should have just conceded the takedown to me and then did his jiu-jitsu on me, but he posted. It went the wrong way. I didn't know it went the wrong way. So I continued fighting. But I knew before the fight I was going to beat him, and I knew afterwards I was going to look over into the corner of the shooter box. Love you all. Rafael Cordillera. Hope I said it right. All you guys. But I knew our friendship was going to take a big hit that night, because we were good friends. We locker room together, many shows. But now I had to fight one of them. And I knew the friendship was going to take a hit, and because I was going to beat him. And I knew all I had to do was look over that direction. And that's what happened. And afterwards, wow. I'm going to be honest with you. I had Phil Baroni and my dad in my corner. You know, my dad, I don't want him entering into the chaos. I put my daddy in there because he loved being in the corner. Brony is a badass, but I wouldn't mind having the monster and Wes Sims with me, because when this shit broke out afterwards, whew, yeah, the Brazilians were coming. They were coming at the hammer. But they didn't get to me. And then Brony did one hell of a job of cornering me, and he took Wanderlei Silva down. And then you got the hey, Wanderlei Silva was trying to knock my head off. Luckily, he got tripped up before he got to me. But then 20 seconds later, Wanderlei Silva was laying beneath me. And I had the opportunity to put my heel through his face. Okay, well, not my style. Not my style. You know, I did put it on his neck just for the fun of it. But I could have smashed him in the face. But now, hopefully, Wanderlei Silva, we did a chic razor commercial together, this and that. I think we have peace because we respect each other, and I made my peace with everybody. I don't really, there's no fighter out there that I really have any animosity towards. I love and respect them all. If you want to talk about, what do you think about
Tank Abbott?
Tank Abbott? What that? Tank Abbott, UFC 10. UFC 10, my first fight, Friday night. I go down to the lobby. I go into the bar/restaurant. I know I was not drinking, but I sit down and I'm just, wow, tomorrow night I'm getting in that cage and it's on. I've been talking for 30 years that I'm the toughest man in the world. Well, now I gotta prove it tomorrow. Well, in walks Tank Abbott. Tank Abbott walks in and sits down beside me. And, well, you know, he had respect for me because he knew wrestling. Tank Abbott knew wrestling. He talked a big game and he was a tough, bad motherfucker, but he had respect for me. And I had respect right back for him. But he knew Olympic wrestler is a dangerous weapon at this stage of the game. Honestly, it was ahead of the game. Wrestling was ahead of the game. Jiu-jitsu came in there. It was ahead of the game. Nobody knew what it was. But then the big wrestlers came in there and we showed you, in my opinion, you sure as hell better know how to wrestle if you want to ever step in an octagon. Of course you need to know how to do everything else and you have to train your ass off and be in the greatest shape of your life. But if you can't wrestle, you can't fight. And that's what I came up on, wrestling. It gave me confidence. It gave me energy. It made me feel like somebody. And then I took that and put it in a cage. And as you can see, how many champions we got that started out as very, very good wrestlers. And they're athletic enough. We're getting the respect we deserve now. Wrestlers don't bully. And a wrestler is such an athletic person, he can easily learn the jiu-jitsu, and he can easily learn the stand-up game, the good ones. We're talking about the best here. And wrestling is the best base to have. I think the fastest growing sport in the world right now, is women's wrestling. And right behind it would be MMA, of course, but women's wrestling is the big one. Men's wrestling took a hell of a boost, put us back on the map. We were almost eliminated from the Olympics. It was devastating to the world because in a lot of countries, wrestling is the same as soccer. You wrestle, you play soccer because there's no expenses. You don't need nothing to wrestle except a singlet and some shoes, which some people don't even have shoes. In soccer, you don't need shit. You just need a ball and some space. And if you don't have a ball, well, they made balls out of socks. That's why the Brazilians and all the other countries play soccer and jiu-jitsu.
And Tank told me a story about a cocktail party fight that you
Cocktail
guys...
party fight? Okay. Tank has his version. I have my version. And Big John McCarthy, I didn't know he was there, but he has his version. But it was after UFC. I just won UFC 11. UFC 12, I had one of my guys fighting in it. Royce Alger. He lost. I was devastated. I didn't think, us wrestlers, we really believed we were the baddest men on the planet, and me, Random, and a lot of my other friends, we just thought we was going to swoop this shit up. But then old Royce Alger ran into a quick armbar by Enson Inoue, and wow, lights open, Coleman. But and then afterwards, the after fight party, I'm just hanging out there, not happy. I should really just get over it. It happened and get over it. But and all of a sudden Tank Abbott came in, and my version is he came in and had a bloody nose, and all the Brazilians came in. Waleed Ishmael, the great Carlos Gracie Sr. or Jr., whichever one it was. He passed away here recently. Loved him to death, man. Loved that guy. He loved me. He came in. Waleed Ishmael, crazy Waleed Ishmael, the eyes. And then Belfort was there. So you had a whole group of Brazilians. Then you had Tank's whole group. And then you had me standing in the middle. And I was very confused because I liked both parties. I liked both people. And Tank looked at me and said, he won't remember that, but he said, Coleman, you're an American. Come on. And then I thought about it, and I don't know what I did, but then Bob Meyerowitz and Big John McCarthy came in and cleared house, cleared Abbott and his crew out of there. So now I'm standing there kind of as a one-man gang, and I gotta look back at the Brazilians and hello. I love you guys. So it was it. Nothing really went that far, but what happened first is I find out Waleed Ishmael did what started this whole thing is Waleed Ishmael did plow Tank Abbott in the nose outside of this after-fight party.
Okay.
And I hear Waleed Ishmael dropped him, and maybe Waleed, I'm sure Waleed will be glad to step in and tell you what happened that night. And Tank will have his version, because I seen his version.
Okay, so
And now you got my version. And then I heard Big John McCarthy's version. So you got 4 different stories, but they're all kind of the same. They all, come together. When you're talking about 2 a.m., things get confused.
And your rematch with Don Fry at Pride 26.
Don Fry, yeah.
Any thoughts on that one?
My rematch with Don Fry, Pride 26, I tell you, Don Fry, UFC 10, okay, you're talking about a young, hungry lion, killer, no quit in him, a farm guy, strong, wrestler, D1 wrestler. Okay, well, when I beat him that night, well, I feel his pain, but at the same time, if you look in hindsight, I weighed 235 pounds. He weighed 215, 220. And I was an Olympic caliber wrestler. Sorry. The odds should, if they had odds at Vegas and anybody knew what they were doing, there ain't no reason in hell why I shouldn't beat Don Fry's ass. I'm bigger, stronger, better wrestler, and he's going to be on his back, and he's not going to submit me. Well, that's the way it went, but it went that way, and it was headbutt, it was elbow, it was punches, it was knees, it was everything I could give this guy, but he was just not going to quit. You would never see a fight like this now. You'll never see a fight like me and Don Fry again, because they would have stopped the damn fight earlier, which I wish they did, because it's a classic for sure, but at the same time, Don Fry, he hated me after this fight. He went home and he hated Mark Coleman, and he watched this fight every day, and it took years off his life. And I would see Don Fry over the next couple years. I would see him at smaller shows, look over, and I would give him a wave, and he would reluctantly maybe give a wave back. But then it took about 4 years before he finally came up, and Don Fry stepped up and said, hey man, he says, I can't hate you. He says, we're too much alike. And it was so cool. I sat there and said, yeah, Don, come on, brother. He said, but hey, I still want that rematch. I said, no problem, but same thing's going to happen. And then me and Don Fry became best friends. We ended up doing the rematch in Pride, and honestly, he was going through all kinds of back injuries, you know what I mean? But he had gained 20 pounds. He was up 235. We were same weight now.
Yeah.
And when we initially locked up, he felt like the strongest man in the world. And I said, oh, shit. But thankfully, it's not just about strength. It's about the gas tank. How long can you maintain that strength? And fortunately for me, I wasn't in my best shape. It wasn't one of my better nights of my life. I had injuries and stuff I was dealing with, but fortunately for me, I had a little better gas tank than him. And, same thing happened minus the headbutts, so it wasn't as vicious, it wasn't as violent, but I got to win. And then after the after-fight party, Don Fry came up to me and he said, we look like a couple old men out there is what I heard. And I said, well, I don't know, I guess so. He goes, man, we got to do it again. Don Fry won the third fight right after the second one. That's Don Fry, man. You got to get him on camera because he's the best interview ever.
Well, we're working on it.
Me and him side by side, we probably we probably a lot of interruption.
We'll try to make
we
that
both be
happen.
fighting for the mic.
We'll have to have double mics.
He's
on it.
hilarious. Don Fry's awesome. I love him to death, man. So many surgeries, but just I always say, they always ask me, who's the toughest guy you fight ever fought? And I say, the toughest or the best? The toughest, I used to see Don Fry. Tough. Best, well, come on. Fedor, Big Nog, Randy, Shogun Rua, Igor Vovchanchin, Dan the Beast Severn. You know, I fought them all. A couple of them 2 times. I still am pissed off about that second Shogun Rua fight because I was not knocked out. And I was too tired to get up and attack the ref. Thankfully, because I probably would have got myself in a lot of trouble, but...
You just mentioned all the reasons why you were in the UFC Hall of Fame, but what did you think of finally being inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame and being brought back into the company?
Well, so I'm over fighting for Pride, and it was the last fight on my contract, Shogun Rua. And yeah, I'm looking for a little security. Let's do an extension, 3-fight extension after Shogun Rua. I was doing well in pro wrestling. Well, Pride offered me, honestly, peanuts. Not enough to even train. Are you serious? So, I figured they would go up, but it got closer and closer to the fight, and I realized, okay, I'm fighting for my next contract. It's on the line here. If I beat Shogun Rua, I will be in the biggest, most powerful position I've ever been in as a fighter. If I lose, well, then I fight for peanuts. And I beat Shogun Rua, and I knew I had the company a little bit. They needed me now. They needed me. At the same time, because they're coming to America. Pride's coming to America, and they need me to fight Fedor, because I was the biggest American name now. But at the same time, Dana White stepped in, and he was offering me a contract to come back to the UFC, which, when I got booted from the UFC originally and went over to Pride, my goal was always to get back in the UFC. But at the time, there was a 5-year span there where Pride was the show. But I always wanted to get back to America. And I'm not going to go into details, but I ended up deciding to fight Fedor for my biggest paycheck ever. But at the same time, piss Dana White off. You don't like to piss Dana White off. So next thing you know, Pride's out of nowhere. They insisted they weren't going to sell their company ever. Well, soon they sold the company to the UFC, and now Dana White has all control of me, and I don't blame him. Nice job, boss. You know, I sat for like 2 years, waiting for the UFC to offer me a fight. It never happened. But then a little bird told me, one of my good buddies started a rumor on the internet. Started a big time rumor that went pretty big, saying Coleman be inducted into the Hall of Fame in Columbus, Ohio. But it was a rumor. But everybody liked the idea so much I think Dana and Joe said, well, it wouldn't be a bad idea. But at the same time, they offered me I didn't care about, hey, UFC Hall of Fame, coolest thing ever. But at this time, I that can be on hold. I am still a fighter. I mean, I still have some juice left in the tank. So, anyways, the rumors hit. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from Dana or Joe asking me if I want to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I said, yeah, that would be great. But I'm sitting there waiting for them to say, because this is when they were putting people in the Hall of Fame, but then they were using them to fight.
Yeah.
So that's all I cared about. I said, yeah, that'd be great, Hall of Fame. But honestly, my fight itch was still there. I said, but, you know, and then finally they said, and would you like to fight again? I said, hell yeah. Now I do know it was Joe Silva. I said, yeah, Joe. Hell yeah. And well, I was already making my plans of cutting down to 205. I had been a heavyweight, 235. Everybody thought I was much bigger than that, but I basically was about 235, if not less. But I was already heading down. I was down to 225, which for a wrestler, I mean, that's easy, 20 pounds. I'm going to be a 205 pounder. But when they put me in the Hall of Fame, Joe said, well, yeah, we want to offer you a contract. It's not negotiable. He said, don't even try to negotiate. Here's what we're offering you. Take it or leave it. And we want you to fight Brock Lesnar. Well, I said, damn. Sounds good. But I knew I had my hands full with Brock Lesnar, only because I'm getting older and I was already heading down to 205. But I'll fight Brock Lesnar at 235, 240 pounds in my prime, and I'll beat Brock Lesnar. But this was, you know, this was late. I said, okay, you know, I didn't say no to too many fights. It wouldn't have been my first choice for opponents, because I know size matters, and Brock Lesnar is a beast. We will see him again. I think many people can beat him because the gas tank, every part's critical. Strength, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, stand-up, all of it, but the gas tank is super critical. And Brock, that's one of his, I would say that's one of his weaknesses, is his gas tank. He's a big engine. When you drive a big car, the tank empties fast. But man, God bless him, he's a superstar and he's brought a lot to the sport. The fight was made. I was supposed to fight Brock Lesnar. I'm training for him. I'm training for Brock Lesnar. I'm going to make my comeback. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm only weighing about 225. And, well, you know, maybe it was a blessing or whatever from the Lord. But in training, boom, I tear my MCL or PCL, whichever fuck it was. And, you know, I got to show proof to the UFC that I'm not just faking a freaking injury to avoid fight Brock Lesnar. So, no, there's the x-rays. It's a level 3 grade PCL tear. I ain't faking it. Ow! Fight Brock Lesnar. I'd rather fight him when I was a little bit bigger and a little bit younger, but I'll fight this guy at this weight and we'll see what happens. You never know. He's a monster. I'm a monster. Right?
Yeah, of course.
But it didn't happen. And so it didn't happen. The PCL tears. I told the UFC, I called him and said, look, I just tore my fucking PCL today at practice. You know, I had the x-rays. I said, but hey, if you guys are going to cut me, if I don't fight Brock Lesnar, I said, I'll fight that guy. But if you can replace me with somebody else and then end up being Heath Herring, who Brock, I think it was Heath Herring and Brock.
Yeah.
But if you guys can wait, I said, and I'm looking to go down to 205. So then they called me back. And Shogun Rua was my first fight back in the UFC after about 6 years. And that's an interesting fight in itself. Didn't have a great training camp. Did not have a great training camp. And not to make excuses, cut to 205 for the first time. I went out there, and within the first minute, I felt like I was going to die. But you know what? Dave Meltzer, big shot in the business. Dave Meltzer said after the fight, he said, fatigue makes a coward out of everyone, and it does. But then he gave me the greatest compliment. He said, somebody forgot to tell Mark Coleman, because I was exhausted against Shogun Rua, and they thought I was going to be knocked out in the first round. Well, here we are, 14 minutes into the match, and it's a close fight. Actually, I think I was leading on the cards. I took him down 8 times that night. And then he finally got the knockout. He got a 3-punch combo. I wouldn't call it a fucking knockout. 3-punch combo. My legs gave out on me. I dropped to the ground. In Japan, I might have been in trouble, because if I was in Japan, Shogun Rua could have just punted me in the face. But in America, you can't kick a down man. So Shogun Rua has to come in and grab me. Well, sorry. Shogun Rua, black belt in jiu-jitsu, I'm black belt in wrestling. There was 20 seconds left, and that referee stopped that fight. That is one of my most disappointing moments ever, because I wanted to go to the decision, and I wanted to see what these judges had to say, even though everybody knows they wanted Shogun Rua to win, because he ended up knocking out Chuck Liddell. After he fought me, Shogun Rua went on to knock out Chuck Liddell. It could have been me, but it wasn't.
And the fight with Couture was...
Randy Couture.
Yeah, it was the first time 2 UFC Hall of Famers ever fought each other. So that was another first for you.
The Randy Couture fight, I left. I went to Vegas. I locked myself in my Palace Station hotel. The Fertitta brothers gave me a discount, and I put the do not disturb sign on the door, but I had only about 50 days to fight Couture. But I had 50 good days of training in Vegas. I felt great. I was using a hyperbaric chamber, which was something new, and it was being offered to me free, and they're like $250 a session. Well, I sat in this thing for an hour, almost every day, and literally, it melted the fat off me, and I felt great. I'm not gonna lie, I felt great before the Couture fight, but I did notice my weight was going down. I'm 205 pounder, but I don't want to be too small. I want to cut weight. But I was training so hard, and I was getting too close to weight, and size matters to me. I like to be the bigger, stronger man. And actually, I woke up the day of the fight weighing 207 pounds. Woke up in the morning 207 pounds. I went to bed at we'll say 212, 213. I went to the bathroom 4 or 5 times that night, drifted some weight, woke up, 2 pounds over. No! I want to cut some weight. I want to be big. I want to be strong. I actually had some breakfast, ate a bunch of food, got myself 10 pounds over, but really it was, people don't understand how easy it is to cut 10 pounds. How do you lose 10 pounds in an hour? Well, I mean, Google it, but it's easy. And I felt good. I felt confident. And then when Randy Couture, man, what a great guy. Love you. Always respectful to me. When he walked in and that crowd erupted, I was feeling great. When I walked in, the crowd gave me a nice response. I felt great in there. But then when Couture came back in, he came into, I'm going to put you in a stranglehold, baby.
Yeah.
He came into that fucking song. And that was his game plan. He's going to choke me out. And when he came into that, the crowd erupted. And then he walked into the cage, and I watched him walk across. And I said, damn, he looks a lot bigger than I remember. Because we trained together a few times. I wrestled him in the international circuit. I beat him 4-3 in a wrestling match.
Yeah.
He headbutted me he didn't mean to, but he headbutted me and gave me 2 stitches in that wrestling match. It's kind of ironic. So then fast forward, we should have fought 10 years sooner, but it doesn't matter. The opportunity presented itself. The UFC needed me and him. It just was all they had on the table.
Yeah.
And wow, how amazing is this? I'm on the billboards out there in Vegas, Coleman Couture. I'm driving to practice. I think Highway 105. When is it? No, that's California.
I don't
From the
know.
Palace Station to 2 exits up. But I'll be honest with you, I got pulled over by the Popo going 110. 2 exits up. And, you know, I was... I don't like to drive like that, but you know what? When you got a fight coming up, your mind changes. You got to keep it together. And some can, and some can't. You got to rise to the occasion. Some can, and some can't. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But Couture put me in. I actually, honestly, yes, I was confident. He walked in, the crowd went nuts. My knee started shaking a little bit. He came in looking bigger than I thought. We came across, we met in the center, and old Randy Couture just stuck a left jab right in my face, like boom. Yeah, we're fighting, Coleman. And my game plan always was to take this guy down. The option wasn't available because Couture was that good of a wrestler. And so now we need to stand. And I couldn't pull the trigger. Many times I wanted to pull the trigger. I love sparring in practice. No lights on, nobody watching. I loved it. But I'm going to be honest with you. When I got into the cage, I seen shit, but I couldn't pull the combination. You asked me what's my favorite combination? Well, I don't know. Right hand to the jaw. Boy, I did it all the time in practice to my friends.
Yeah.
But when I got in there, I couldn't pull. I seen it. I did hit Randy Couture with a left hook. If you want to look it up and Google it.
Yeah.
I hit him with a left hook and I watched his eyes roll up a little bit. But I just stood there as a frozen deer, as a frozen wrestler. I said, oh, that was nice. But why didn't I just follow up? Because that wasn't my game. I am the godfather of ground and pound. Because that's what I did.
You invented the term. You were the first one.
I did. I invented the term. That's it. I'm going to take this. And my mama didn't like it because I said I'm going to take this guy to the ground and I'm going to pound the effing shit out of him, but my mama don't like me cussing. I don't like cussing, but sometimes it comes out when you're in the locker room, but I'm gonna ground and pound the fucking shit out of him.
Yeah.
Yes. Was my game plan. Very simple game plan. Stay out of the basic, jiu-jitsu moves, and guess what was the equalizer? It made it a little bit not fair. I was a world-class wrestler. Nobody could stop the takedown. And then all of a sudden, I'm allowed to headbutt you in the face with this head, the hard part of my head, and the soft part of your face, Mr. Hannibal. Hannibal?
Hannibal, yeah.
No, that was cool. And when they took the headbutts away, and then they took my shoes away, and then they added more rules. The more rules they added, I like fighting with no rules.
Yeah. Severance is the same thing, actually.
Huh?
Dan Severn said the same thing, and so did Tank Abbott.
That's interesting. That for sure, Tank Abbott, but Dan Severn, I'm surprised.
He says he hated the gloves.
No. Dan Severn. That's why Dan Severn's not the godfather of ground and pound, because he used a hell of a lot of strategy and a hell of a lot of wrestling, but he didn't pound like I did.
Right.
I mean, I hit harder on the ground than I did standing up, but the gloves, thank the Lord, my first manager, coach, I don't like talking about him because it's a touchy situation, but I came back from after fighting Modi Hornstein. It took me like 10 or 15 punches before this man tapped. Well, I'm used to fighting on the streets, and it only takes one before a man quits.
Yeah.
But I came back and said, I'm taking these gloves off because they're getting in the way. Thankfully, I listened to him and kept the gloves on, because my second fight was Gary Goodrich, who's got a head of steel. Great friend of mine, God bless him. I hit him so many times. And then I fought Don Fry in the finals. And I don't know, we're talking about 100 punches here. My hands were exploded. My body felt great. My face was fine. But my hands were not broken, but they felt broken.
Yeah.
And, well, that's a good problem to have after 3 fights in one night. It's a good problem to have.
And how do you feel about Joe Rogan these days? Because I'm sure you're aware of that video. That's, I don't know what your expressions
but I thought it was going to go viral. But no, Joe Rogan. Hey, the first time I met Joe Rogan was UFC 12 when I was promoting me fighting Marie Smith. My guy fought in UFC 12. I won 10, I won 11. UFC 12 was Joe Rogan's first show. And, I was a little distraught by my guy getting armbarred. And, I don't know, might have had a couple beers just to relax a little bit, but then they decided to put me on camera, and they cut me short real quick because I promised not to cuss, and I promised not to do this, and I promised not to do that. But Joe Rogan's first interview, and the F-bombs were coming out left and right, and they told him to cut me off. And Joe looked me in the eye, he said, damn. He said, man, you look like you use a fight tonight. I go, I could. And I scooped him up, and I started spinning him around in a helicopter, and Bob Meyer was pleading with me to put him down because they needed Joe Rogan to finish the show.
Yeah.
And I set him down. I said, I'm just playing. But that's my first encounter with Joe Rogan. And then we met plenty of times over the years. Good friend. And then I met him after the comedy show. Went up. And honestly, people say I was drinking. Was not drinking. Just gave him a hug. And a lot of times when wrestlers give each other hugs, it turns into something more than that. You know, Joe Rogan hit me with a nice slick arm drag, and he took my back. I got hip issues at the time, and all of a sudden, out of instincts, I had no choice but to turn around and face him, and I would say I gave him a gentle push, because I could have gave him 100 times more.
Yeah.
But thankfully, because I guess he could have been. I mean, I like having Joe Rogan as a friend. I think he's cool as hell. I think he's funny as shit. I think he's awesome. But I heard he was pissed. But no, then he makes it very clear. No, he just can't believe how freaking strong I was. You know, but I love him. He gave me a big shout out on my Twitter. You know, I'm trying to work the Twitter. I'm trying to work all that stuff, build my followers, respond to the fans more. But I've been laying low. This is the first. I don't do many interviews, Mr. Hannity.
You want to tell us your Twitter, just so I have that on tape as part of this interview?
It should be at Mark Coleman.
Yeah.
Okay, you're rolling now.
I know. You should see my oldest. Wow, monster.
So what would have happened if you'd fought Ken Shamrock when you both were in your prime?
Yeah, Ken Shamrock, I wish I would have got that opportunity. Man, everybody, it's old school, but everybody says, did you ever fight Ken Shamrock? I'm like, no, but damn, I wish I did, because it would have been big. And on top of it, of course I think I would have beat Ken Shamrock's ass. You know, I don't go into a fight thinking I'm going to lose. Big name, Ken Shamrock, respect. But hey, Ken, I'm the godfather of ground and pound, not you, bro. I would have had to watch out for you. You're pretty sneaky with them submissions, but sorry. Headbutts included. I would have took Ken Shamrock down, and I would have pounded the shit out of him in his prime. Please don't take that as a disrespect to you, Ken. That's just what I think would have happened. And unfortunately, it didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't get to fight Tank Abbott. I would have loved that, because I would have ground and pounded the shit out of that monster. Don't get hit by his right hand. But so I lose 2 fights in a row, and man, I'm desperate for answers, because not answers. I'm on a slide. I went to the top. I'm heading down fast. I'm training in San Clemente for Pedro Hizzo, and Shamrock is in San Diego, and my manager knew him, this and that, and Shamrock said, hey, you can come up. If Coleman wants to come up, I'll help him. I'll help Coleman prepare for Pedro Hizzo. But I fully think everybody knew that I was a little feisty. Everybody knew he was a little feisty. So I'm in the trainer's room, and I'm pretty humbled by this point. 2 losses in a row is very humbling. I'm in the locker room getting ready for practice at the Lions Den for the first time. And Ken Shamrock turns the corner and says, I don't know this. He says, hey, Coleman. I said, yeah. He goes, look, he goes, I'll train you for this. I'll get you ready to fight Pedro Hizzo. He goes, but we're going to do things my way. And he fully expected me, which normally I might, but I just looked up, and I had my Hickson Gracie face on. And I said, okay, Ken. I said, let me just finish putting my shoes on, and I'll be out to practice, and show me what to do. And he was stymied by the answer because he was ready for an altercation, and Hammer goes back to San Clemente. But I just looked up and said, okay. I said, I'll be out in a minute. And then after I stymied him with that, and he said, well, okay. Then he went in, he smoothed, he calmed down a little bit. He thought he was going. He didn't think it was going to be. So I ended up training at the Lions Den for a day and a half. That day, we stayed in a $20 a night hotel, roach infested, nasty ass hotel. Me and Brandon Lee Hinkle and Nick Nutter, both fighters, both great fighters. And we're squeezed in this little hotel room. They don't have fights coming up. I got a fight coming up. They're just there to help me. And man, it was we left a pretty San Clemente nice environment. We had a 3-bedroom apartment that was being rented out, hot tub, and this and that, and now we're in a $20 a night hotel at the Lions Den, and we went to practice, and basically Ken Shamrock tried to show me how to ground and pound. I said, well, what the fuck? I can do this back in San Clemente. So anyways, my two guys that I was with that were not on vacation, but they didn't have a fight coming up. So they're out in California and it's being taken care of. Yeah, they looked at me like the second day and said, you think maybe we can just head back to San Clemente? I said, let's go. and they were so fired up, and we didn't, no disrespect, Ken, but it was a much comfortable situation in San Clemente, and I already knew how to ground and pound. And the story goes, Ken Shamrock did corner me against Painter Hizzle. I mean, I don't know what you mean by corner me. He was in my corner, but was I listening to Ken Shamrock? No. Fuck no. Hell no. I listened to some guys, but you gotta pick and choose. Gable, Dan Gable, that name comes to mind. Pat Notech, Ray Seffel, some guys, but Ken Shamrock, no. Nope.
And George St. Pierre, I don't know if you've heard his version of this story, but
George St. Pierre, Jesus Christ, this is an old story. It's old.
Yeah.
What about it? What about
I've
George
never heard your version.
It's an old story.
Is it true?
Well, George, he's, it's pretty much on, but basically, we were a Hammer House. We were young, dumb, but tough as shit. Okay? And that goes a long way, especially back in the day. And we did things that you probably shouldn't do before a fight. Get too fired up, too crazy, slaps in the face and stuff like that. No, I realized as you learn as you go on, you need to stay calm, save your energy for the damn cage, don't waste it before the fight. But we walk into Wes Sims. Big Wes Sims, seriously my best friend of all time, and owe him so much. I took him under my wing as an 18-year-old. He was a basketball player, and we had the Hammer House going But it was just the Hammer House. It was just a group of us wrestlers, and that wrestlers turned fighters. And all of a sudden, my doctor, he told me about Wes Sims, one of his patients, and well, everybody loves Wes Sims. Everybody hates him or loves him, but like I said, hate is so close to love, it's crazy. But he said I need to help Wes Sims. He wants to be a fighter and a pro wrestler. Well, what the heck? I ain't got time, I'm the world champ at the time. I'm trying to train myself, train Kevin Randleman, train Eric Smith, train Nick Nutter, You got to keep your plate empty. When you're not the champion, your plate ain't so full, it's very empty. All you do is chase that belt. And that's the best way to train. But then once you get that belt, everybody wants a piece of you. It's Conor McGregor.
Ronda Rousey too, it happened to.
Ask a lot of people, but what made you a champion was training my ass off. What made me a champion was training my ass off. And then my plate started getting a little bit full after I beat Dan Severn, and my head started getting a little bit swelled. And you take away training, and Mark the Hammer Coleman is not Mark the Hammer Coleman. He's just Mark Coleman. And that's the way it goes with everybody. And Conor McGregor, I was there at the first Diaz fight. And he did 40 or 50 appearances. He flew them all over the country. Well, God bless him for promoting this sport, this and that. But guess what? He paid the ultimate price. He beat the shit out of Nate Diaz in the first round. But the two guys I was sitting with at the time, they had money on Conor McGregor. They looked at me and said, "It's over, right, Coleman?" But I watched Conor McGregor after the bell rang, and I watched him stagger back to the corner a little bit. I know the feeling. And Nate Diaz was bloodied up, but he walked back with a lot of gas in the tank stuff. And these guys asked me, "It's over, right? It's over." I said, "No, it's not over." They said, "What do you mean? Look at all the blood on Nate Diaz's face." I said, he's drinking it right now. I said, Conor looked a little tired to me. I don't know for sure. We'll find out. And then the second round, as you saw, yeah, Conor came out trying to finish him.
Yeah.
Gas tank emptied, got taken down, and choked out. Well, then Conor McGregor said, "Okay, the reason I'm the champion is because I fucking trained. I ain't doing. You have to sell a fight, but you can't sell yourself short, because the only way to win a fight is by selling yourself out before the fight. Train smart, train hard, walk into that cage ready to go 5 rounds. Because that's going to give you the confidence. The only thing that'll give you confidence, which is the most important, not the most important, they're all important, but confidence is so important. Well, the way to build your confidence is through training. When you train hard and you make your heart stronger and make your gas tank fuller and bigger, well, then you have the confidence. Because when you walk out there with shaky knees, it's happened to me a couple times, ain't a good feeling. Shaky knees ain't good. And the only way to avoid shaky knees is by giving everything you got in practice. And that means empty your plate and clear out the Distractions. Clear the distractions out. Train. Eat. Coolest thing about fighting, coolest thing about me training for the Olympics, coolest thing ever was, only responsibility I had was eat, sleep, and train. And I like that. And I would put the do not disturb sign on my hotel room because I didn't want the maids coming in, because my room would get a little bit smelly if I'm there for 60 days. But that's the way I liked it. Don't bother me. I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm laying in my bed, I'm reading a newspaper, and I'm waiting for the next workout. When is the next workout? Oh, it's coming so quick. Damn, it's coming quick. That's it. Eat, sleep, train. That is the best ideal situation to become a champion. But at the same time, if you don't do your homework on Twitter and you don't come up with something creative, you got to be yourself, but bring yourself out so the public knows you. They have to get to know you for something, because the bottom line is, let's face it, people want paid. We want paid. Just like an NFL player, just like a basketball player, just like do hockey players want paid?
I think they make a hell of a lot of money.
Hey, by the way, I love hockey.
Yeah.
I love hockey. The Blue Jackets, damn, we'll get it together. One of these days, soon, tough market. But want paid, but to get paid, winning is the best way to get more pay. But at the same time, if you win and you're boring and you have nothing else to offer, unfortunately, it's going to cost you money. You have to be able to excite the crowd, entertain the crowd, and all this and that. And personally, I love my fans. The only time I would never say no to signing an autograph. But there were times where I'm running late for a fight, and sometimes you just have to say, I gotta get to they're waiting for me down there. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta say no, but I love the fans. I respect them. I appreciate them, and I don't just sign the autograph and tell them to beat it. I like to get to know as many as I can. And if it takes a little longer than the promoter wants, well, too bad, because I'm going to treat everybody the same way that I would want to be treated.
And on that subject, I'll touch on this now so we have it on tape. If someone wants to book you for an appearance or an autograph convention, is there a way that they can get a hold of you?
Well, I mean, I need to be booked. I need to get busy, and I've done many bookings, and like I said, when I do these bookings, I feel great. I go to a small show, and it's not about ego, but no, somebody wants to come up and take a picture with me. What the heck? How cool is that? But then at the same time, my belts do turn people's heads, but then they come over and see the belts, but then they get to meet the person, and I'm real. I'm no better than anybody in this world. I'm no worse than anybody in this world. But if I can get some little kid or whoever in line, and they want to meet me, and I'm getting paid to be there. Coming from a wrestling background, this shit didn't happen. And now somebody pays me to fly in and sign autographs and meet people. Are you kidding me? How cool is that? But then when I do meet somebody, and when this promoter does bring me in, I'm going, like I'm doing with you right now. I'm trying to give you a great interview, because You came out of your way to come here. Haven't given many interviews. I decided to give Mr. Hannibal Lecter, Hannity. I decided.
I'll take that as a compliment because I know you're a fan of Hannity.
Well, I am a fan of Hannity, but you know, I'm going to try to. But when I do these appearances, no, I'm going to treat every kid. I'm going to meet them, and I'm going to tell them. You know, I had the Pride Grand Prix belt, and I took it to my shows to meet these small shows, and I'd let little kids hold it, and they would hold it, and I'd take a picture with them, and it got scratched up a little bit, and one kid dropped it, and it broke one of the fake rubies that was in it or whatever, and I took it back to Japan, and the Japanese are so precise, they're so... I showed them the belt and looked fine to me. A little chip in this ruby here, a couple scratches here. They looked at me and they said, "Oh my God, what happened to it?" I said, "What are you talking about?" You know, they want me. You know, I'm not the type of guy. My pride belt ain't hanging up there. You know,
yeah.
It's actually right now. I'm not even sure where it's at, but it's
somewhere down here.
it's wrong. Well, I mean, it's somewhere safe. You gotta keep an eye on that sucker. But I'm saying it ain't my baby. I have babies, you know what I mean. But it's my baby. But it's a baby that you can kind of squeeze into a bag. And when you travel, how you gonna travel on an airplane with a belt like that? You know. You gotta have, most people have a case or they don't take it with them. No. I just wrap it in my t-shirt. I fold it up, wrap it in the t-shirt, shove it in my little duffel bag, and it fits right in the overhead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And well, you can't keep it out of your sight. You can't check. You can't check a Pride Grand Prix belt on. You have to keep that thing in your sight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's irreplaceable.
That's what I'm talking about.
And if you do have to replace it, it's coming out of your pocket.
It ain't gonna be replaced.
Yeah.
They could never make that belt again. It's the coolest belt ever.
And the famous Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz fight that just took place.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I watched. I love. You know, there's so many fighters, so many fights. You know, it seems like almost you could. You know, I can't keep up, but I honestly like watching people I know. So Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, I know both those guys very well. What is the question? What did I think about it?
Yes.
Well, you got to find out. You know what I'm saying? If the plug wasn't pulled on me, and honestly the hip replacement kind of just ended my career. There's no even testing the waters. But Chuck Liddell, on the other hand, his body's still in one piece. And you never forget. You never can replace, in my opinion, you can never replace the feeling. There's a lot of things that feel pretty good, but let me tell you what, man, Chuck Liddell knocking somebody out with that left hook. Okay, well, you don't ever forget that, and as time goes by, you still think about it. I think a lot of fighters, maybe 80%, that's saying a lot, well, they struggle with what to do after fighting. You know, it's getting better now because the sport's so big and everybody has so many opportunities, but the old school guys, me and all my boys, all my buddies, I love them, respect them all. I have no hate towards any of them. Tito Ortiz, love you, bro. You know, gonna have your conflicts, but Dana White, like he says, you got to prepare for after the bell rings. I'm talking when the big bell rings and you're done, career over. What are you gonna do now? And if you didn't prepare for it, it can be a battle, a struggle, sad. Not complaining here, but man, I miss it. I fucking miss it. I miss it. It was the coolest thing ever. Wrestling was so close second. Football, high school football was so close third. Baseball, I loved baseball because it's the one sport you didn't have. I mean, I don't want these baseball players. You didn't have to be 100% in shape cardio. You know, you had to be in good shape, of course, but miss it. But fighting, it's irreplaceable. You gotta find a peace. You gotta find a peace. And, you know, now, you know, we have to have the concussion. I don't even know if you guys would even think about covering the concussion thing, but it's obviously become a major player in every sport for a reason, because it's real. You know, the brain's pretty important piece of your body. Chin's pretty important too. Actually, the whole body's pretty important. You know what I mean? But chin, brain,
Yeah.
you know, and some private areas. Very important. The whole body's important, but
I'm sure you've experienced issues with that with all the fights you've had. I've experienced it just from pro wrestling.
well, I can't blame any. I've had 4 hip replacements, neck surgery, ACL. I can't blame any of it on fighting. I can't blame it on anything. I blame it on when I was a 5-year-old kid. I'm pretty fucking sure I told myself I was going to be the baddest man on the planet, even though there was no such thing. But to become that person, you're going to have to put your body through hell. And I did. I put it through hell. I put it through torture. I had to outwork everybody. You have to be smart. But sometimes, my time, you know, now it's, everybody's got 6 coaches. You know, I was my own coach. I'm teaching myself something I don't even know. But you know what? I did okay. I did okay with minimal help. 10 days with the boy Pat Militech. God bless you. When I showed up at Militech's, it was the last 15 days of my 6-month grind to the Pride Grand Prix while I showed up at Militech's, and he assumed the Hammer's going to show up trying to get in shape still. But no, for once, I was in shape when I got to somebody's place, and they didn't have to work on my cardio. They had to work on how we can improve what this guy's got. And Pat Militech, the genius he is, he learned me in a 2-week span. He learned what I could and couldn't do. And I didn't even realize I was listening to him, because I don't listen. I was called uncoachable a lot of times. I regret that, but I didn't even know I was listening to Pat Militech call out instructions in the Pride Grand Prix until I watched the tape and I could hear him say something and I would actually do it. What the heck? That man's awesome. I love him. I owe him. And I won the Grand Prix. That was peace. That brought some peace to Mark Coleman, because to rise up so fast and to fall down so fast and have the whole world saying you're done at 33 years of age, I'm done. Can't be true. I question myself a lot of days saying, did I just turn old overnight? Because that's what I hear. That's what I hear happens. You just turn old overnight. Well, this wasn't the night. You know, I got my health back, and I put 6 months in. I got 2 weeks of coaching from Pat Militech, and I went in there, and hey, I shocked maybe not the world, but I shocked the Pride promoters and the fans, because I was done.
Yeah.
But I wasn't done. And then I came back and beat Shogun Rua about 6 years later. One of my famous lines, look, don't bet the house against me, because you don't know if I'm ready or not. Because if I am ready, well, there's a good chance I'm going to win that fight. When I wasn't ready, well, I humbly got my ass whooped.
And you coached Kevin Randleman in Japan when he won the UFC title.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? That must have been huge for you too.
Huh. Oh, the monster. We haven't even talked about Kevin Randleman. Man, you know. Yeah, we went through a lot together, me and the monster. He respected me because I was older and bigger and stronger. But he respected me, and I was able to coach him. And you know, my best aspect of coaching is to build your confidence and make you realize you can be the champion, because that's, you know, the rest is very important. You better have the athletic ability, but you better have the mind. There's a lot of great athletes that don't make it. Well, you know, I took the monster under my wing, and we originally Kevin Randleman thought I didn't like him. He thought I was a racist. His first year at Ohio State as a little freshman was my first year coaching, and I walked into the room and had a pair of sunglasses on. Why? I don't know, but I did. And I walked through, and I didn't know Kevin Randleman at all. I just knew he was a top recruit of ours that I had never met yet. And then 3 months passed, 2 months passed at Ohio State, and me and Kevin, we hardly ever talked. But then one day, after spring break, I looked at Randall and he's walking by. We're in a weight room, and I said, "Hey, you want to train with me today?" And I didn't know that. I didn't even know he had an issue with me. You know what I mean? Or not an issue. I didn't know he had these thoughts about me. And he said, "Huh?" And then we went through a Hammer House weight training session where the whole rest of the wrestling team was watching, and they're learning. Because I had a lot of followers. You know, I was old school. Stack that rack as high as you can, and I wasn't a technique man. You know, as I grew older, I realized, oh, that was stupid, but it wasn't stupid. Any kind of weight training works. You just have to be careful when you don't use technique. But that day he went home. I didn't know this, but he was ready to quit Ohio State. Hated it. But then he found out, well, you know, I wasn't no racist. I just didn't know him, you know what I mean? And then he ran home and called his mama and said he likes me. Talking about me. And then I don't think we missed a workout for the next whatever. And I didn't turn him into, Jesus, take that back. He was already an animal inside, but now, hey, strength is a move. Strength is incredibly important in this game. They all have to be combined, but the stronger guy wins a lot of the times in wrestling and in fighting. Not all the time, but it sure in the hell is an advantage. And Kevin Randleman, after that, he went from this to this. And he's squatting 505 for 5 reps. He just was a freak of nature. I didn't have to, I just pushed him. I couldn't break him a lot of times. Same thing with Kevin the Monster Randleman. When he prepared properly, when he was mentally ready and physically ready, oh my goodness, this guy was a beast. But everybody always asks, how did you and Kevin do in practice? I'm gonna look right in that camera and say, thank the Lord, I had about 3 inches height and about 25 pounds of weight. And if Kevin was here today, I whooped his ass. But maybe.
That's the best way to get better, though, too.
Huh?
It's the best way to get better if someone in your training center can beat you, right?
Well, yeah. I don't want to take any credit for Kevin Randleman, but me whooping his butt on a regular basis and made the next guy feel weaker, easier, and in my prime, come on, I was one of the best in the world, and size does matter. So don't get me wrong, the Monster was a beast, but our training sessions, I enjoyed them because I won. Kevin didn't enjoy them that much. He did, but not till later that night. Well, he was pissed off at practice a few times, but hey, I'm there to. I took practice as serious as I did a fight. I mean, I didn't like giving up takedowns. I didn't give up takedowns to anybody. Hardly anybody ever took me down in my little group. Only times I got taken down was when we went to world training camps. But at Ohio State, I was the man, and I ain't letting nobody take me down. Kevin Randleman, Rex Holman, Nick Nutter, the list goes on and on. Gave up a few here and there, but I like pitching shutouts. I don't like handing out a free takedown. So if Kevin Randleman was going to take me down, he was going to have to earn it.
And you told me earlier you had a story about Tito Ortiz.
Tito Ortiz?
Yeah.
Tito, everybody wants to fight Tito. That's because he built himself up to that level. Being called out is a compliment, so I was probably one of the guys that I didn't have to call him out, but they lined us up, tore my knee, fight canceled, and Twitter, Instagram, Tito posted that Mark Coleman's a sissy. Okay, well, I'm still sleeping because I am a bat. I'm a late nighter. I don't like the mornings. But my phone started ringing, and my manager had responded to him calling me a sissy, talking shit about his wife and kids and all this and that. Oh no, I got nothing to do with that. Tito Ortiz, I'll call you a punk ass douchebag, but I'm never going to talk about nobody's wife and family. I have no right to do that. Had nothing to do with it. But Tito did feel like I had something to do with it. My manager responded to it on the stupid ass internet. I didn't know nothing about it, but he still thought I had something to do with it. But we had to do a 4-way, me, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, and somebody else with Jay Glazer. Just something we had to do out somewhere, and it'll be the first time I see him since this shit came out. And there he is getting the makeup put on, and I said, fuck it, I'm gonna go up and clear this matter up. And he looked over, and old Tito Ortiz looked over, and he was not expecting to see my face, but he see me. And oh, yeah, he made a mean looking face at me. He was not happy. You don't talk about a man's wife and kids. That's garbage. I mean, religion, all that shit. I don't know. You got to promote a fight, but you got to be careful. But I didn't say nothing about his wife or his kids, for sure. And I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, Tito," and I told him that. I said, "Look, I had nothing to do with that stupid ass tweet or interview." I said, I said, "I'll call you a douchebag to your face, but I would never talk about your wife." So I left it in his hands. Make your move. I'm not saying make your move because I didn't expect him to make no move, but basically I had my hand held out saying, I'm telling the truth. Because Tito Ortiz thought I did have something to do with that stupid ass tweet. No, I didn't. Because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go that route. I ain't no better than anybody. But I can call Tito a douchebag because he is. No, I'm just kidding. I love it. Depends on who you ask. But no, he looked over and he thought about it for a second, and then he put his hand out. We shook hands, and we went and did our little 4-man podcast with Jake Laser, and that's it. I don't have no problems with from far. I don't know if people have problems with me, but as far as I know, as far as my feelings are, I don't have. I respect everybody that attempts to get into that cage somehow, or ring, or cage, from amateur level to the fucking world championship. Hey man, that takes nuts and guts, and it's one hell of a feeling when it's over. Winning is much better, obviously, but if you got in there and lost and gave it your best and you're still on your feet, MMA can't beat it. Best sport ever.